This page is the front cover, featuring StarCraft 64 as the main event with a full review promised. Duck Dodgers and Daffy in Space are also highlighted, shown with Porky Pig and Daffy. Other games mentioned include NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC, Cruisin' Exotica, Army Men Air Attack, and SF Rush 2049. It also advertises a free 200-page Perfect Dark guide. This page is an advertorial double-page spread. On the left it's for Cheats Unlimited, offering tips and walkthroughs for over 3,000 games, including loads of N64 titles accessed via phone. On the right it's an ad to subscribe to the magazine itself, offering a mega deal with free N64 games, like GoldenEye or Banjo-Kazooie, or strategy guides like Zelda 64. It even mentions the StarCraft 64 review again. This page is the contents page for the issue, highlighting the main features and reviews. The big news is the review of StarCraft 64, bringing that famous PC strategy game to the N64. There's also a feature on Duck Dodgers, starring Daffy Duck, which looks like a colorful space adventure. Other articles cover San Francisco Rush 2049 and Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000, alongside features on gaming events and a look back at older titles. This showcase section highlights recent gaming news and rumors. An editorial discusses the magazine's commitment to quality game reviews, referencing the Perfect Dark controversy. Major news includes the unveiling of a Pikachu-themed Nintendo 64 console. The section also covers a limited-time event in Japan offering a rare Pokémon, Cerabi, and a Pokémon musical headed to Broadway. Other news includes legal issues surrounding the Excitebike name and a discussion of Mini Racing, a finished game from the now-closed Looking Glass Studios, whose release is uncertain. Lastly, there's an update on Nintendo's next console, Dolphin, with rumors of Resident Evil 0 potentially being revamped for the new system. This page is the monthly GameWatch feature, giving us the lowdown on upcoming N64 games and their planned release dates, with the UK ones helpfully flagged up. There's a competition from Wild Things offering up some N64 pads and Vibra packs. You've also got the latest monthly charts showing the top-selling N64 games, and an advert for the Cheats Unlimited service. The screenshots show some belters like Resident Evil 0, which we were hearing rumors about maybe even shifting to the next console, Zelda, Majora's Mask, which was massive, Conker's Bad Fur Day, which was a bit different, Banjo-Tooie, and Dinosaur Planet, which ended up landing on the GameCube instead. There's also a pic of Hercules, which was based on the Disney film, I recall. This page features the letters section, where readers write in with their thoughts on the N64 world. One letter discusses concerns about the music in Tony Hawk's Skateboarding, prompting the magazine to clarify the actual lyrics and assure readers they aren't offensive. A screenshot shows some skateboarding action. Another reader questions the abundance of racing games on the N64, listing titles like Carmageddon 64 and the F1 games, and wonders about their production cost and the value of sequels. A racing screenshot is included. The anticipation and anxiety surrounding Perfect Dark are clear in another letter, with a reader expressing fears it might not live up to GoldenEye. The magazine confidently responds, confirming the game's brilliance, highlighting features like proximity mines and versatile weaponry, and explaining why the price is justified for the quality and depth offered. The page features multiple screenshots and a character model of Joanna Dark. A reader's journey into the N64 ecosystem is shared, touching on the console's slow start, but praising the quality games that eventually arrived. They mention the phenomenon of Pokémon, look ahead to the next console, Dolphin, which became the GameCube, reference a curious rumor about the PS2's potential capabilities, and celebrate N64 classics like Zelda and GoldenEye. Images of Pikachu and Mario are shown. Finally, there's a star prize competition offering a bundle of N64 accessories, including a steering wheel, worth a good sum. This page continues with the reader letters section. One chap from Europe expresses his excitement that the N64 is still going strong, looking forward to big hitters like Perfect Dark, Banjo-Tooie, and Conker's Bad Fur Day. He asks about international readership and competition chances, and the magazine confirms overseas. Readers make up a small percentage, but everyone has an equal chance in the random prize draws. Another letter discusses concerns about video game violence and age ratings, citing a story about Mortal Kombat sales refusals and parental responsibility. The magazine agrees it's more about suitable subject matter, and that ultimately, parents need to take the lead in guiding their kids. The rest of the page is a large advert for Gameplay, pushing their mail-order service with a hotline and website. They're promoting Perfect Dark heavily, showcasing various N64 games, accessories and peripherals like the memory expansion and cheat cartridge, and highlighting their quick delivery options. This page kicks off the 64 site section, highlighting upcoming games we were all looking forward to, like San Francisco Rush 2049, Cruisin' Exotica, Army Men, Air Combat, and Paper Mario. The main focus here is a preview of San Francisco Rush 2049, looking at Midway's futuristic racer. They'd been shown earlier code which needed polish, but the latest version had arrived, and thankfully it was shaping up brilliantly, stated to be 85% complete. The game promised absolutely gorgeous graphics and tracks, moving away from dull backdrops to vibrant, activity-filled cityscapes. Apparently, the cars were completely customizable, from how they looked to the technical handling like suspension and torque. The game was also set to offer higher graphics if you had the expansion pack, which was a big bonus at the time. Beyond just racing, it featured stunt arenas, where you'd gain points for pulling off tricks and landing them safely. It sounded packed with content, and a proper challenge against fast opponents. It was indeed released in the UK in October 2000 as planned. Over on the right is a big advert for a different magazine, Total Game Boy Color, highlighting features on games like Metal Gear Solid and Wario Land 3. The next page continues the look at San Francisco Rush 2049, expanding on what we saw before. It delves into the game's fiery fun, noting the explosions and visual effects were much better than the earlier Rush games, although the screenshots here don't quite capture how dynamic it looked in motion. The preview highlights the lively tracks filled with obstacles like trams and trains you had to dodge, and stresses the importance of exploring for all the hidden shortcuts and alternative routes, suggesting it was key to getting the most out of the game. It then moves on to more stunts than you can shake a stick at, detailing the evolution of the stunt mode. Rush 2049 upped the ante with multiple dedicated stunt arenas, each with unique challenges, and a new scoring system where you earned medals for pulling off dangerous maneuvers. A big addition was the cars having wings, giving you crucial control in the air for those massive jumps. The article mentions hidden items like bonus cars and tracks were scattered throughout the game, encouraging exploration beyond just racing. Finally, there's a brief section on the battle mode, confirming its inclusion and stating it was shaping up nicely for multiplayer fun, describing it as strangely addictive. The screenshots throughout the page show the game in action across racing, stunt, and battle modes, illustrating the futuristic cityscapes and varied environments. San Francisco Rush 2049 was indeed released and became a popular racer known for its wild stunts and exploration. This page delves into the upcoming Cruisin' Exotica, the next title in Midway's arcade racing series. The article points out that previous Cruisin' games weren't exactly fan favorites, but suggests Midway is really making an effort to turn things around with this one. You can expect 14 new tracks set in all sorts of exotic locations, from India and the Amazon to even Mars and the lost city of Atlantis, with the designers apparently trying hard to get the theme right for each level. While it's based on the arcade machine, this isn't just a straight port. The home version adds extra cars, new shortcuts, challenge modes, and ramps for jumping. The visuals are said to be sharper than the earlier games, with less fog, and the environments are much more lively, featuring moving objects and creatures like dinosaurs, and even a killer whale. Customization is included, letting you put your name on the number plate, and pick a paint color. A big highlight is the 4-player mode, which the preview says is actually playable. Screenshots show the varied locations, dynamic elements, and even some cheeky moves like ramming a police car. It looks like Midway put some real work into this one, compared to the last go. This page features a preview of Army Men, Air Combat. You take control of a helicopter as Captain William Blade, tasked with stopping the evil General Plastro, while also battling hazards like massive insects. Highlights mentioned include a winch system reminiscent of Desert Strike for interacting with the environment, and a full 2-player cooperative mode for all missions. The preview notes the game was significantly reworked for the N64 compared to its PlayStation origin, promising improvements. It lists 3Do as both publisher and developer, with the UK release TBC, though it did arrive eventually. There's also an advert for South Park Rally, a racing game from Acclaim featuring the South Park gang in various vehicles, available on Nintendo 64 and other platforms. This page gives us a look at Paper Mario, which was a completely new direction for the plumber. It's previewed here as a turn-based RPG, with flat, hand-drawn characters moving through 3D environments. The article points out the unique visual style and how you interact with familiar characters. It mentions the battles are turn-based, which was a big departure for a Mario game, and notes that the preview build shows the Japanese version's battle screen. Screenshots show various parts of the game, like battling enemies, interacting with characters, and exploring different areas. Nintendo and Intelligent Systems were behind it, and the UK release was slated for October, which it indeed was in 2001. It was originally known as Super Mario Adventure, but Paper Mario is definitely a more fitting title for this unique take on the series. This page looks at Duck Dodgers, starring Daffy Duck. It's presented as a platformer, where you play as Daffy Duck in his role as the space hero, tasked with saving Earth from Marvin Martian. The game involves collecting energy atoms to stop Marvin. The article features several screenshots showing Duck Dodgers in different environments, including some sort of city, a rocky alien landscape, and an indoor area. It also mentions a minigame called Slam Duck, which is a basketball challenge where you score points by shooting hoops within a time limit. The game was indeed released on the N64 in 2000. This page continues the feature on Duck Dodgers starring Daffy Duck. It highlights more aspects of the game, including its humor and specific gameplay moments. We see some large character artwork, featuring Daffy Duck and his faithful sidekick, Porky Pig, suited up for space adventure. The article details a boss encounter, describing a rather large opponent wielding a sword, suggesting players will need to rely on strategy rather than direct confrontation. It also praises the game's comedic elements, specifically mentioning Daffy's hilarious animations, even when failing in spectacular fashion. A unique minigame is revealed, accessible both within a level's arcade and from the main menu. This Severed Heads game is described as a version of Pong, but with severed duck heads instead of the ball, which certainly sounds like classic Looney Tunes absurdity. Several screenshots showcase various situations in the game, from picking up special items that make Daffy glow and dance, to getting run over by vehicles, or the comical sight of Daffy dangling mid-air after a missed jump. There's even a mention of a minecart section, and the ability to switch to a free-look camera mode to admire the environments. The page effectively conveys the game's focus on classic cartoon antics mixed with platforming and minigame fun. This page continues our look at Duck Dodgers, starring Daffy Duck. The feature highlights the game's commitment to its cartoon roots, noting the excellent character animations and Daffy's wide range of facial expressions that really bring him to life. We see screenshots showing off some of the varied 3D environments across the game's 5 themed planets. The article points out how the camera perspective can switch up, from panoramic views to fixed top-down or side-in angles for certain sections, keeping things fresh. There's also a sidebar, detailing a tense sewer-level chase involving a rather aggressive rat, which sounds like proper old-school cartoon peril. The feature wraps up by saying the game from Infogrames looks set to be a thoroughly enjoyable experience. The right side of the page is a large advertisement for a strategy guide, offering a complete walkthrough and secrets for the cracking N64 shooter, Perfect Dark, available now from newsagents. This page covers a GoldenEye tournament held at Bournemouth University. It details the event where hundreds of students gathered to play the absolute classic GoldenEye 007 in a knockout competition. The article mentions 64 magazine staff attended and participated, drawn by the chance to cover the action and of course play some GoldenEye themselves, with the organizers promising free drinks. The tournament format involved 4 players per game, with the top 2 advancing through the rounds. Photos show students engrossed in the multiplayer battles and the atmosphere of the university bar where the event took place. It highlights that the entry fee went to charity, adding a good cause to the competitive action. The feature includes results from the early rounds, showing who progressed, including the magazine's own team members. This page continues the coverage of that cracking GoldenEye tournament down at Bournemouth Uni. After getting through the early stages, it shows us how round 3 played out, with some of the 64 magazine lads still in the running. It details the matches and who made it through to the semi-finals. The semi-finals saw some tough one-on-one battles, with Steve Hibbert taking on Jamie W. and Roy from the magazine team, facing off against Nick Pine. The text mentions Nick beat Roy, which must have been a bit of a shocker. Seng. The main event. The final was Steve Hibbert versus Nick Pine, with a Dreamcast up for grabs. They even gave them a head start because, let's face it, they were top GoldenEye players and likely already had an N64. Nick Pine won the final, and Steve came third after the playoffs. Roy felt better knowing the bloke who beat him went on to win the whole thing. The page also has a bit of a laugh about the aftermath, with one of the chaps, Roy again it seems, having a bit too much to drink and falling asleep while on the phone. Classic. Finally, they throw down a challenge, asking if anyone else fancies setting up their own GoldenEye tournament and promising to come cover it. All in all, sounds like a proper good laugh for a great cause. This page is a feature article looking at the CYB at Our Games Network Gaming Lounge in London, detailing the venue, interviews with the manager and a staff member about the setup and the PC games they offer like Unreal Tournament and Combat Flight Simulator, and how to find the place. This page carries on the feature about the CYB at Our Games PC Gaming Lounge in London. It talks about how the venue is set up, catering to everyone from seasoned veterans to newcomers who've never touched a mouse before, with staff providing guidance. They highlight the social aspect of playing together on a fast network. The article notes that because it's in a licensed venue, there's an age restriction to enter. We see plenty of action shots from games running on their powerful PCs, including Unreal Tournament and Counter-Strike gameplay. There are also pictures of people playing and the lounge itself, plus a rather amusing demonstration showing how alcohol can affect your gaming prowess. To top it off, there's a voucher offering readers a free hour of gaming at the London location. This page kicks off a feature taking a trip down memory lane with classic retro games. It starts by looking back at how far computer games have come and highlights that older Atari games, like Donkey Kong and Mario Bros, still offer great gameplay despite their age. There are features on the Atari versions of Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. with cartridge art, and the Atari Mario Bros. With art and a screenshot. The team at the magazine also chip in with their own favorite retro games, reminiscing about titles like Manic Miner, Elite, Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge, Nightmare, and the Start Run arcade game across various systems including the Spectrum, BBC Micro, Amiga, MSX, and Sega. There are screenshots showing gameplay from several of these old classics. This page continues the retro games feature, showing off a massive find of classic Atari games sold for next to nothing. It talks about how far gaming graphics have advanced from simple blocky screens to modern marvels like Donkey Kong, and looks back at the history of the Atari 2600 and 7800 consoles, showing screens from games like Emmys, Pac-Man, Double Dragon, Space Invaders, and Star Wars. Also on this page is a big advert for a complete solution guide for Donkey Kong 64 on the N64, promising walkthroughs, secrets and tips for the game featuring all the gang like Diddy, Lanky, Tiny and Chunky. This page kicks off the magazine's review section, prominently featuring a review for StarCraft 64. It talks about the game being delayed but finally here, calling it the best conversion of the PC strategy/combat game ever seen. Of course, us knowing history, this version never actually saw the light of day on the N64, a real shame, given how hyped it was here. There's also a UK update section looking at upcoming releases, like Nuclear Strike, Rat Attack, and NBA Showtime. The page includes explanations for all the standard review boxes you'll see throughout the magazine, like the 9 info, £64,000 question good/bad points, memory options for saving, and the PAL performance check. They also detail their rating system, showing how they score games out of 5 in graphics, audio, gameplay, and challenge, leading to an overall percentage score. This page continues the review section with a deep dive into StarCraft 64. It highlights this eagerly awaited conversion of the PC classic, expressing initial worries about bringing such a complex game to the N64. However, the review is overwhelmingly positive, proclaiming it the most accurate, most enjoyable, most impressive conversion of a PC game that we've ever seen. Gameplay is described as top-down strategy involving building forces and guiding units across the map, centered around the manipulation of the 3 distinct races. It even gets compared favorably to Command and Conquer. Despite the fantastic review, and even earning the magazine's Gold Medal award, it's worth remembering now that this specific version never actually saw a full UK release, only arriving as an import. Screenshots show the various races in action, and sidebars detail features like campaign progress saving and the inclusion of speech samples for every unit. This page continues the review of StarCraft 64, giving you the lowdown on the 3 distinct alien races you can command: the Terrans, essentially futuristic humans with projectile weapons; the Zerg, a terrifying genetically engineered horde operating as a hive mind; and the advanced Protoss, boasting energy shields and teleportation tech. It runs through the core gameplay loop, which is all about strategic resource management, harvesting minerals, and Vespene gas, to build bases and train units. The game features a comprehensive tech tree, where you need certain structures and research to unlock better units and upgrades. The campaign mode guides you through the story with varied mission objectives, but there are also plenty of other skirmish and multiplayer options to get stuck into, letting you set up custom battles against the computer or mates. Screenshots highlight the top-down view and various units in action, and it even touches on the game's cinematic FMV sequences. It really shows how much depth they managed to pack into this N64 version. This page continues the look at StarCraft 64, diving into the nuts and bolts of the gameplay and the 3 distinct races. It really emphasizes the depth of the game, explaining how crucial research, building structures, and careful unit coordination are. You can't just rush in blindly, you know? It hammers home that mastering each race requires completely different strategies due to their unique abilities and building methods. The Terrans are the adaptable lot, good all-rounders with repairable gear and mobile buildings. The Zerg are the terrifying swarm, breeding fast and spreading across the map using their creep. And the Protoss are the tough ones, slow to build but incredibly durable, with powerful shield technology and warping construction. The review section here gives the port a massive thumbs up, declaring it near impossible to fault. It mentions that pretty much everything from the PC original is present, with even some improvements, although obviously internet play didn't make the jump to N64. The screenshots show off the different races and bases, like Protoss Dragoons attacking a Zerg base and Terran Wraiths around a starport. It genuinely highlights how much strategic variety there is, and how well the game holds up on the console. This page delves deeper into the StarCraft 64 review, highlighting some excellent quality of life additions for the console port. Worker units now automatically start gathering resources when built, a small but vital change that frees you up during intense battles. There's also a handy master build menu to streamline construction. The review praises the game's atmosphere, noting the impressive music and the wealth of speech samples for every unit, which really brings the battlefield to life. It confirms the inclusion of the original 3 campaigns and battle maps, with the potential for 3 more from Brood War via the expansion pack, essentially bundling that content in. The split-screen 2-player mode is mentioned as great fun, running smoothly despite the obvious screen real estate limitations. Screenshots on this page show various units in action, resource nodes, and base structures, giving a clear look at the isometric perspective, and the different races fighting it out. A second opinion calls it one of the most immersive and enjoyable strategy games on the N64, saying it makes other console RTS games look simplistic. The game earns high marks across the board for graphics, audio, gameplay, and challenge, culminating in a cracking overall score of 95%. It's truly billed as the ultimate strategic warfare game. The N64 control setup is detailed, and alternatives are listed. This page kicks off the review for NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC, a cracking arcade-style basketball game from Midway based on their coin-op hit. It's a Toon-2 affair, which keeps the on-court action fast and tactical, avoiding the sometimes confusing mess of full teams. The game is praised for being very user-friendly, with simple controls that let you get straight into the action. It's all about the over-the-top spectacle, especially the fiery dunks where players look like they're flying well above the rim. The review points out that the game includes hotspots on the court, which are guaranteed scoring zones if you manage to get there. A neat improvement over previous games like NBA Jam is the addition of arrows on the screen edges, showing you where your teammates and opponents are, making tactical passing much easier. There's also a player creation mode where you can build your own baller from scratch, improving their attributes, and even assigning power-ups like the hotspot as you play through games. Screenshots show the high-flying dunks, the courtside action, and the player creation menus, giving a good look at the game's presentation. It mentions it's out now as an import for £44.99, developed by Euro.com. The graphics are noted as slightly ropey, but the fast gameplay and arcade fun seem to be the main draw here. It supports up to 4 players, has Rumble Pack support, and uses the controller pack to save custom players. This page continues the review of NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC. It points out that although it keeps the arcade spirit, some aspects of the N64 conversion feel a bit limited. The single-player mode focuses heavily on grinding to improve your custom player's stats, with points earned partly through a slightly strange quiz after each game. The commentary is highlighted as suitably cheesy, fitting the over-the-top arcade style, though it might wear thin after a while. The graphics are noted as less refined than the arcade, particularly the close-ups of player faces. While the fast action is a plus, the lack of varied replay angles is seen as a downside in a game packed with spectacular dunks shown in the screenshots. Fun elements include the hidden characters you can unlock, adding to the game's silly side, like the pumpkin-headed player shown. The pre-game player intros are also mentioned, amusingly compared to police lineups with somewhat janky animations. It's clear the game captures the fast, physical 2-on-2 gameplay, allowing tactics like pushing opponents, which adds to the arcade feel, even if the referee lets a lot slide. Ultimately, it's seen as a fun, if somewhat basic, arcade translation for quick games, particularly in multiplayer. This page continues the NBA Showtime review and shows the N64 controller layout, detailing how you control the arcade action. It also points you towards other basketball games reviewed in previous issues, like NBA Jam 2000 and NBA Live 2000. The review notes that despite the arcade spirit, aspects like commentary can become repetitive, and the graphics feel a bit rushed, particularly the player faces. They mention the lack of player names, which feels a bit odd for a licensed NBA game. The ratings are shown for graphics, audio, gameplay, and challenge, culminating in an overall score of 78%. There's a second opinion from Roy Kimber, who feels it's just another average basketball game on the N64 and hopes for something more innovative next time. The final soundbite describes it as an enjoyable basketball game but far from the best. This page covers the UK release review for Rat Attack on the Nintendo 64. It's a puzzle game from Pure Entertainment where you play as cats, trying to catch all the rats on Chowkelitic levels. The review highlights the manic and frantic multiplayer mode as a real highlight, suggesting it's where the game truly shines. Single player can get a bit repetitive, but navigating the levels with teleporters and different rat types keeps things interesting. It mentions various enemy rats like the telekinetic genius rat, the splitting jelly rat, and the flying fire-throwing devil rat, plus different playable cats with unique traits. The game is noted for its simple core gameplay but gets hectic quickly. The camera can sometimes be an issue, but overall, it's seen as an addictive game for short bursts, especially in multiplayer. The review gives it an overall rating of 82%. This page covers the UK update for Nuclear Strike 64, bringing the classic top-down helicopter combat action from the 90 Strike series to the N64. It follows the familiar formula of flying various vehicles, primarily a chopper, to complete missions and take down an enemy army led by a rogue agent who's nabbed a nuclear weapon. You spend your time navigating environments from high above, taking out targets with machine guns and rockets, and picking up supplies or rescuing personnel. The game includes other vehicles too, like a hovercraft and a Harrier jet, each with its own weapons, adding a bit of variety to the destruction. The review highlights the return to the series' roots, while incorporating some modern touches for the N64. It also mentions that the map screen is key for finding your objectives and necessary pickups scattered around the levels. Screenshots show the top-down view of the action, explosions, finding supplies, and the map screen. The UK version is noted as having negligible borders, and no noticeable drop in speed compared to the import, which is good news for us PAL gamers. This page continues the look at Nuclear Strike 64, detailing the game's controls, showing how you pilot your chopper and use its weapons on the N64 controller, including jing left and right with the shoulder buttons, and firing rockets or cannon. It also provides alternatives, listing other N64 games like Chopper Attack and Command & Conquer. The review gives a breakdown across graphics, audio, gameplay, and challenge, leading to an overall rating of 80%. There's also a second opinion from Roy Kimber, who feels that while the graphics might look a bit dated by N64 standards, the gameplay holds up wonderfully, and the N64 version is a strong improvement over the PlayStation releases, calling it a tremendous fun game. A soundbite summarizes it as a classic game, with a few modern additions. Additional screenshots show more aerial views of the environments, targeting, and destroying structures like bridges. This page is the Cheat Central section, offering various cheats and tips for NBA Showtime, Superman, and Knockout Kings 2000, including character unlocks and gameplay modifiers, along with a note on unlocking content in Kirby 64 by collecting crystals, shown with game screenshots. The next page is dedicated to more cheat codes and tips for a good selection of N64 games. You've got passwords for Nuclear Strike to give you an edge in that helicopter combat, boosting your armor and damage. Then there's NFL Blitz 2000, a proper arcade football blast, where you can find detailed codes involving button presses for all sorts of effects, from changing the field to unlocking hidden players by entering specific names and codes. Xena, Warrior Princess has a section listing special combat moves for the different characters, like Xena, Caesar, and Velasca, along with details on performing secret moves and unlocking hidden fighters by meeting certain requirements. Screenshots showcase the action. Fighter's Destiny, that unique fighting game, gives you tips on character customization, how to improve skills, perform different winning poses, access a special move for USHI the cow, transform into a secret werewolf, and unlock hidden fighters by beating specific game modes. Finally, there's a massive list of Explorer codes, detailing codes for that cheat cartridge, to give you infinite health, ammo, or unlock characters and items, across a whole host of different N64 titles. This page presents the Score Zone, featuring high scores submitted by players across a wide range of N64 titles, including F-Zero X, Banjo-Kazooie, Wave Race, and many more. This page continues with the Score Zone, showcasing impressive times and achievements from dedicated N64 players across a whole host of titles. Featured here are top performances in classics like GoldenEye, Diddy Kong Racing, and Mario Kart 64, alongside challenging scores for Star Wars, Rogue Squadron, Turok, and Mario Party. We also see players excelling in Snowboard Kids, Fighters Destiny, Donkey Kong 64, Quake 2, and Blast Corps. There's also a Score Zone challenge section focusing on Perfect Dark, highlighting that they're restricting scores to the Agent difficulty setting to make it accessible. The ultimate reward, for the best Score Zone champion, is a rather nice-looking top-drive steering wheel setup. This page features a playing guide for Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000. It's presented as essential reading to master the muddy tracks and become a top dirt biker. The guide covers key techniques to improve your racing, including detailed sections on perfecting your jumps, handling corners efficiently, getting a crucial fast start off the line, and even advice on using the different camera angles to your advantage. Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000 was released on the Nintendo 64 and brought the intensity of Supercross racing to the console. This guide aims to give players the edge needed to dominate the competition. This page features a detailed playing guide for Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000, specifically breaking down strategies for 4 indoor tracks: Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, and Indianapolis. Each section provides a track map marked with key points, accompanied by screenshots and expert tips on how to tackle specific corners, jump sequences, and straights. It's all about mastering the nuances of each circuit to shave off those vital seconds and get the edge on your rivals. These guides were brilliant for helping you navigate the tight turns and big air jumps unique to Supercross, ensuring you knew exactly where to brake, accelerate, or prepare for a landing. Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000 was a solid racer on the N64, bringing the muddy chows indoors. This page continues the detailed playing guide for Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000, moving on to 4 more indoor arenas: Minneapolis, St. Louis, Seattle, and Tempe. Just like the last page, each track gets its own section with a clear map showing key points A, B, and C. Alongside these, you've got screenshots of the action at those exact spots, paired with expert tips on how to nail the tricky sections. Minneapolis is all about that big jump into a corner and handling the rhythm section. St. Louis highlights navigating the tricky opening corner and the series of bumps. Seattle's guide warns about the run-up to a massive jump and concentrating on cornering, while Tempe covers judging speeds for jumps and managing tight corners before the finish. These guides were proper handy back in the day for figuring out the best lines and techniques on each circuit in this solid Supercross title. This page continues the playing guide for Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000, switching focus to 4 demanding outdoor tracks. We've got a breakdown of Broome Tioga, highlighting the challenge of tight, fast corners after a long straight, and mastering the tricky U-turn right off the start line. Next up is Glen Helen, which is described as a real uphill battle, stressing the importance of maintaining speed through the downhill chicane and tackling those step-like rumble strips flat out. The guide then moves on to Budds Creek, giving tips on hitting most jumps at speed, but warning about one particular ramp too close to a corner barrier. It also covers navigating a tough section of tight bends that demand precise throttle control and handling the step-like rumble strips on the slopes. Finally, Motocross 338 is analyzed, focusing on a pair of tricky corners after a chicane and advising on the best line through a difficult chicane section. It also touches on the Chow-Titic first corner, right at the start of the race. Just like the indoor arenas on the previous page, these maps and screenshots with key tips were invaluable for shaving seconds off your lap times back in the day. This guide details 4 outdoor tracks in Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000: Red Bud, Steel City, Spring Creek, and Washogal. Red Bud requires slowing for bumpy corners and navigating a tricky chicane and an added corner. Steel City has a barrier line section and a ramp to hit at full speed, with a slowdown needed before the final lap's tabletop. Spring Creek features a bump used as a ramp, challenging corners, and a tight final turn. Washogal offers uphill ramps for maximum speed, rumble strips to manage, and tricky final corners demanding careful braking. These track breakdowns were crucial for optimizing lap times. This page covers the freestyle mode in Jeremy McGrath Supercross 2000. It's presented as a guide for when you want to break from the main races and fancy pulling off some wicked air. The guide highlights several dedicated freestyle tracks like Crater, which is great for easy points by landing in the center, and ramps, where you just keep hitting the same set in a circle. It also touches on Jim Jam, which can be confusing at first, but offers plenty of stunt opportunities, the tabletop course perfect for side-to-side jumping off the edge, and the chasm track that requires good jumps to clear the gaps. There's a section detailing various tricks you can perform, showing screenshots of them in action. It also reveals how to unlock hidden stunt tracks like Tabletop, Chasm, and Jim Jam by finishing series in the main game on different difficulty levels. This page is all about the Not Nintendo section, which, as it says right there, covers cool stuff that isn't strictly N64 related. It's where they'd feature other bits and bobs that might interest gamers at the time. You've got a look at some graphic novels here, like one for Buffy the Vampire Slayer called Bad Blood. There's also a Star Wars book, Prelude to Rebellion, set before Episode I. For toys and gadgets, they're showing off a Jar Jar Binks costume, which apparently caused a bit of a stir when one of the lads tried it on. There's a weird plush toy called a Wuzit that makes noises, a Star Trek Voyager watch that glows, and a Homer Simpson head that doubles as a radio, voted one of the coolest things in the office that month. And lastly, there's the Laser Challenge V2 set, basically home laser tag, which looks like good fun running around blasting your mates, as shown by the photo, Jugu. They also mention the Sleepy Hollow film, out on DVD. It's a mixed bag of cool items covering books, films, toys and gadgets, all things that might appeal to the N64 crowd, even if they don't plug directly into the console. This page carries on with the Not Nintendo stuff, showing off more bits and bobs that the lads running the magazine thought would appeal to Chen 64 players back in the day. Warrington Orchestra. You've got a Star Trek FM radio here, shaped like the Enterprise, which is a neat little gadget for Trekkies. They also feature the Clerks comic books, based on the Kevin Smith films, which sounds like a good laugh. There's a Homer Simpson talking alarm clock that wakes you up with classic Homer phrases, and a Buffy the Vampire Slayer kit with various prop-like items. The big feature here is a competition for the film End of Days, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're giving away a Sony DVD player and copies of the film, which was a pretty decent prize at the time. The competition questions are all about Arnie's previous films like Red Heat, The Terminator, and True Lies. This page is an advert promoting special offers on various strategy guides and books for N64 games. You could get a deal to buy any 3 of the featured books for only £10, covering titles like Turok 2, Banjo-Kazooie, Zelda 64, and Donkey Kong 64. This page is an advert for subscribing to 64 magazine and ordering back issues, featuring a cracking mega deal where you get a subscription with a game like GoldenEye or Banjo-Kazooie, and the solutions book for Zelda 64 or Banjo-Kazooie included. You can also pick up loads of past issues covering all the classic games. This page introduces the Nindex, which is essentially the complete guide to every single N64 game that the magazine has ever reviewed. It's designed to be a quick reference point, to check out scores and comments, and see how they stack up against newer releases. There's a key explaining all the symbols used for things like player counts and peripheral support, like the Rumble Pack or Expansion Pack, plus details on games that earned the Sizzler, 90% plus, or Gold Medal, 95% plus awards. The main part is the big list covering loads of games with their developer, player count, what peripherals they use, if they were released in the UK, the issue they were reviewed in, their percentage score, and a short comment. There's also a separate list highlighting the magazine's current top 10 games, featuring classics like Perfect Dark, GoldenEye, Zelda, and Ridge Racer 64, each shown with a small screenshot. This page from Nindex magazine details N64 games, providing a comprehensive list, the Nindex, with developer, player count, peripherals used, UK release status, review issue, score, and a comment. High-scoring games are highlighted. The page also revisits older reviews in the Test of Time section, re-evaluating games like Toy Story 2, A Bug's Life, and NBA Live 2000. Best of the Bits recommends N64 accessories. Finally, the page presents top 5 lists for various genres. Notable scores include Perfect Dark, 99%, and GoldenEye, 95%, for shoot-'em-ups, Zelda, 96%, for adventure games, WWF WrestleMania 2000 93% for fighting games, and Rayman 2 94% for platform games. This page continues the Nindex, which is the big comprehensive list of N64 games featured and reviewed in the magazine, showing their scores and a brief comment. It also features some more of the top 5 lists, for various genres. The top racing games lists Ridge Racer 64 at 94% as number 1, followed by F1 World Grand Prix and Micro Machines Turbo 64. The top party/puzzle games are led by Buster Move 2 at 91%, with Weetrix and Loadrunner also making the cut. Command & Conquer is the top strategy/simulation game at 90%, ahead of Premier Manager 64 and Blast Corps. There's also a list of the top 5 bad games, highlighted by Carmageddon at a dismal 4% and Superman at 14%. Finally, we see the 64 Mag's Most Wanted section, showcasing games the magazine staff were eagerly anticipating. This includes Donald Duck, which was planned to use the Rayman 2 engine. Conker's Bad Fur Day is featured with a screenshot of Conker, hinting at its shift towards a more adult tone. Resident Evil 0 is also listed, though this one famously ended up being released on the GameCube instead of the N64. Turok 3 is shown with a screenshot of a battle scene, noted as coming after Perfect Dark. StarCraft 64 is still wanted, mentioned as a game often brought up but not yet released in the UK, despite having some unique features on the console. This page looks ahead to the next issue, teasing a real-life Perfect Dark feature where the magazine team takes on a game developer in a first-person shooting contest. It includes some small screenshots, hinting at the setting. There's also a full review of Titus Wacky Platformer, Blues Brothers 2000, featuring character art from the game. The rest is a big advert for Special Reserve offering Turok, Rage Wars, or Duke Nukem on Game Boy Color free with membership, plus other discounts and free gifts.